And two huge news stories in the world of big energy companies. That's right, we start with an exclusive investigation in the Times today which shows how British Gas is routinely, I couldn't believe this by the way, is routinely sending debt collectors to break into vulnerable customers' homes to force pay-as-you-go meters onto families when they fall behind on their bill payments. The Times newspaper planted a reporter, this is fantastic journalism, by the way, planted a reporter in a firm used by the gas company to pursue debts. And the investigation found enforcement agents had been sent to the homes of people with mental health problems, single mothers, and, of course, as ever, elderly customers. It's always the vulnerable who suffer in these situations, isn't it? Here is a clip of the report where one of the debt collectors offered advice to the reporter on assessing vulnerabilities.
Hello, it's British Gas, your gas supplier. We're here with a court warrant. Can you please open the door? Otherwise there are lots of people open it for you. It's the exciting bit. I love this bit.
Which bit?
This bit. I love this bit.
The same agent offered me tips on judging a customer's vulnerability.
But if they're just saying, oh, I'm a single mum and I've got 3 kids, and that's not vulnerability. Right. It is a vulnerability, but I'm a bit old school and a bit hard-nosed.
I was in teams sent to enforce warrants for British Gas at homes where customers included a 77-year-old man as well as a young mother aged 25 who had 4 children.
Yeah, it's like an episode of Rogue Traders, this, isn't it? And the findings come on the same day that energy giant Shell revealed its profits for the last year hit £32 billion. It's the highest figure in the firm's 115-year history and has prompted protests from the environmental group Greenpeace. Well, joining me now to discuss the Times investigation is GBNews' political editor, Darren McCaffrey. Darren, thank you very much. This has got people raging, and I suspect rightly so.
Yeah, not least of all because, as you saw in that clip and has been reported in the Times newspaper today, there is a reflection that this is focusing on the most vulnerable people in society. The idea about prepayment meters, by the way, is that it is people who literally cannot afford their bills, who've fallen behind on their payments, and so with prepayment meters, you have to pay in advance, if you like. The downside is that it's often more costly than paying by direct debit, for example. And these are people who already cannot afford it at a time, of course, in which energy prices have never been as high. And we've had a pretty strong reaction from within government. Rishi Sunak's spokesperson this afternoon saying that vulnerable families should not be treated so poorly. The findings suggest that British Gas has failed to use every possible avenue to support those struggling with energy bills, as they rightly deserve and are entitled to, because that's essentially what is stated, is that this should always be a last resort. Clearly, from watching that clip, that is not the case in those instances the Times have found. We know this afternoon the energy minister is meeting with British Gas. In addition to that, the chief executive of British Gas has been talking to every Tom, Dick and Harry today, suggesting that they're not going to use this firm in future and they're going to look at their processes as they go forward. But clearly that is not enough for everyone. The Labour Party, who've repeatedly called for this practice to be stopped, are doing so again today. And the Liberal Democrats, their MP actually for Bath is going to introduce a private member's bill in Parliament tomorrow, suggesting that this should be suspended, this practice, till at least April, when we get over the winter period, and then it can be reassessed. It'll be interesting to see whether actually that potential private member's bill does get cross-party support. I suspect in the end the government won't give it parliamentary time, but it will be a test of the resolve on this issue. And as you say, it comes on a day in which we've got that another announcement about energy profits. Shell, Esso, doing very, very well in the last couple of months, last year, with record amounts of profits. Now, they will point out, as will others, that those figures that you talked about, I think £1,000 a second in profits, is largely based on global profits. It's not made, in fact the vast majority is not made here in the UK. The government would suggest there is a windfall tax in place that does mean it does cream off some of those profits. Clearly the Labour Party, though, want the government to go further, and they feel that they've got public opinion on their side.